So we've talked about two of the top prospects. Let's expand to the bigger picture. The 2017 NBA draft is being talked about as one of the deepest drafts in the latest years. One of the best drafts in recent memory was 2003 draft, which produced LeBron, Melo, Wade, and Chris Bosh. In 10 years from now, when we look back at these two draft classes, which class will have the biggest impact in the NBA?
I got to go with LeBron's, man. I got to go with LeBron, D-Wade, Melo, Chris Bosh. That star power is insane. Like I already said, man, LeBron is going to probably go into ownership after Cleveland Cavaliers. That's probably just going to get handed to him after, like, as an award. Instead of getting the MVP, they'll be like, here's the rights to the Cavs. That's probably going to happen. Miami and D-Wade, I could see him getting into some ownership with, like, Miami or even Chicago if he wanted to stay at home.
Oh, please, he's leaving Chicago. Give me a break. He's coming home.
Yo, it's still home. It's still home for him. And then Bosh and Melo, they've always been that. We always judge them on, like, championships, but, like, they've always been expensive players and superstars. This 17 class I love as much as probably anybody can possibly love without picking them on this one. I just feel like their impact is going to be more individualized. Like, LeBron has changed a whole atmosphere. The fact that we have a player like Lonzo Ball, you can't tell me that he's not influenced by LeBron. The fact that he's the passive superstar that has LeBron's name written all over it. That you see the impact that's going on even through these players. And I'm not saying I can't see it from these players, but I just think it's a little too early. And also I just feel like there's still all question marks because everyone looks cute and beautiful when you're coming out of college, and then you get into the real world. Some people don't have a job in 3 years.
Chris Dunn.
We don't take shots at my boy like that. Take shots at my boy.
I'm going to disagree with you. It's hard for me to disagree with this only because I am at the forefront of the LeBron will be the greatest of all time debate. But we'll save that for a different time.
Michael Jordan.
We'll save that for a different time. All right, yeah, let's see. All right. So as far as the 2017 draft class goes, we have so much depth coming in to the league this year. When you look at it, Lonzo Ball, Markelle Fultz, Josh Jackson, Jason Tatum, all of these guys, they're going to make an immediate impact on whichever team they're on, whether it be the Lakers, the Sixers. I would say the Nets, but they don't have a pick.
I see how it is.
And then you look at the depth, and then you look at the other guys who are coming in who they have a lot of potential to make an immediate impact on whatever their team is as a role player. Malik Monk, Dennis Smith Jr., De'Aaron Fox, Miles Bridges, Justin Jackson, our boy from UNC. They're going to enter the league, and they're going to make an immediate impact as a role player. And then you have guys who are just going to make impacts in general. TJ Leaf, Ivan Rabb out of California, Harry Giles and Luke Kennard out of Duke, Ozzie, I hope I pronounced this right, and
Bam, Bam.
Something
just
like that.
Bam. Just call him Bam.
These guys are going to make big impacts too, whether it's right away or they're going to make impacts down the line. When you look at the 2003 draft class, 9 players out of that draft class made the All-Star team. I think that's a really easy number for this draft class to hit. And when we're looking back 10 years from now, I think we're going to say, wow, the 2003 draft class, man, they produced a lot of talent up front. But this 2017 draft class, they had a lot of players who made a lot of bad teams at least mediocre again.
I'm going to have to go with the 2003 draft. I value top-heaviness when I look back at draft classes. LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, and Chris Bosh, that's 4 of the top 5 picks. That's going to be remembered forever in this 2003 draft. Now, this year's draft, that has the same potential, but I don't know if they're going to reach LeBron, Dwayne Wade's level, maybe Melo or Bosh, but when I look back at that draft, I'm going to be like, man, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, like, they were all in this draft. And then you got Darko Milicic. First one to get a ring, but...
yeah, but how long did he last in the league?
He lasted a good 7 years.
But he was taken second, and he didn't make an impact at all. He won a ring, but what impact did he have on that team?
He didn't have any impact, but you also forget in the 2003 draft, you got David West, who's carved out a nice career for himself. Kyle Korver was drafted by the Nets and traded for cash to buy like a paper machine or something. People forget about that.
Paper mache for Brook Lopez.
Yeah, hey, it comes full circle. No, but like you forget that these guys were there. Josh Howard, David West. Yeah, Josh Howard carved out a nice, short but solid career for himself. You forget that these guys were there because it was so top-heavy.
But what impact did they have on their team?
Kyle Korver had a huge impact on the Hawks for a little bit.
Josh Howard had that's another thing about it. Like I said, when you come out of college, you see all these highlights. They got Ball is Life videos and all that. They showing all these talents, but you got to realize a lot of them are going to fall off. So like you saying all these names, like, yeah, that sounds good right now, but when they get into the NBA, that's a no boys allowed league. So a lot of those players that you're naming, they're gonna fall to the wayside. Like you just said, you name like Chris Dunn and some people talk about Jaylen Brown. A lot of those players right there.
I don't think Jaylen Brown fell off.
No, but I'm saying, but like, a lot of them thought, oh, immediate impact. He's gonna do how he gonna do this. But you gotta be cautious when you're looking at these players, because not everything that glitter is gold, man.
I tend to agree with what Derek's saying because, I'm not saying that any of these guys are going to match the impact on the NBA that LeBron or Dwayne Wade has had. But when you look at the larger scope of it, at least 8 to 10 teams are going to get not a franchise player, but a franchise-changing player, or someone who kind of makes them turn the corner.
Someone who can help lead them to a championship.
Yeah, it's a nice
or at
piece.
least a playoff run.
So I think that impact on the NBA is can have the potential to be a lot greater than what LeBron has had on this. Stay tuned to the Fast Break on WTOP.
Welcome back to the Fast Break. As of late, there's been a lot of talks surrounding players being arrested during key games. Do y'all guys think it's fair that players are resting at this point?
To be honest with you, for the fans' sake, I don't think so. I mean, I'm all for a minute's restriction on certain nights to give them a little bit of rest, but if fans are paying big money to see LeBron James on the road or any of those superstars, they should be able to get their money's worth and see these players play if they're fully healthy. Like, obviously, if they're not healthy, then, yeah, they shouldn't be playing. But if they're fully healthy, throw them out there for 20 minutes. If it becomes a blowout, rest them then. They have plenty of time to rest in the off season. They have off days. They have the whole All-Star break off, like full week. They have plenty of time to rest then. Like, I'm all for a minutes restriction here, but for the fans' sake, I know if I pulled up to, let's say, a Brooklyn Nets Cleveland Cavaliers game.
Don't go to Brooklyn.
I will. I will. It's cheaper than MSG. But okay, if LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love were all out and they're all healthy, I'd be kind of upset. I'd be like, I paid $100 for these tickets and they didn't show up. Like, I feel kind of cheated.
Yeah, I agree with Samir. Like, if you look back, I think it was 2012 maybe when the Spurs were visiting Miami, and I'm pretty sure they arrested Tim Duncan,
they got fined
Tony Parker, and Manu, and
or $250,000.
I don't think that's fair for the fans because you think about it. Back in 2012, it's Spurs versus Heat. That's a huge matchup, and I guarantee people spent $300 at least as an average of a ticket. And if that's like your own, because if you're spending $300 as an average consumer, that's probably the only game you're going to that year, or maybe one of a few. So you would want to see Tim Duncan and Tony Parker for that experience as part of that's why it's so expensive. So I don't think it's fair to spend that money when you're watching guys like Patty Mills and Danny Green playing. You didn't want to see those guys. You wanted to see Tim Duncan play. I don't know why, unless you're like a basketball technique aficionado, but
if you have the textbook in front of you, that's who you want to see play.
No, but I agree with what James Harden said. He put it that he feels like if he were to rest, he'd be leaving the rest of his teammates out to dry. And I never thought of it that way, but I kind of agree with it. It's kind of like a backhanded way of saying like I'm more important to the team. Like everyone knows that James Harden's more important to the team than Pat Beverly, but by you resting, that's saying, oh, it doesn't matter if you get hurt while you're playing. I need to be ready for the playoffs. So I agree with they shouldn't be resting. If you're on a losing team, like this is a little bit biased, Melo, and you'll see this later. Melo needs to take a seat because we need that pick really bad. So
here's the thing:
Derek,
what is the only thing that matters as an NBA player?
Wins.
And winning a championship, correct?
Champions.
And 82 games is a long season when it's a fast pace. This NBA we've talked about, it's changed. It's a fast pace, up and down game. We're not playing like the Grizzlies did back in 2010. It's not like that anymore. So down the stretch, of course stars are going to rest. LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love, they're going to rest because they don't have to worry about any team in the East. James Harden's comment, as far as I'm concerned, when he's saying, well, I shouldn't rest because I'm leaving my team out to dry, well, he is because they're actually playing for something. They're playing for a high seed in the Western Conference. When you have teams that you're going up against, like the Golden State Warriors, the San Antonio Spurs, teams that you can lose to in the playoffs, yeah, you're going to want to play every game because you want a higher seed so you can have home court advantage. In the East, when you're as dominant as LeBron James and the Cavs are, and they're resting because they know that they're so much better than everyone else in the East. They can rest and be like, oh, yeah, well, come April, we're going to be blowing everyone else out anyways. If a superstar gets hurt in late March or early April in a so-called, quote-unquote, meaningless game, don't you think that's going to be more upsetting to NBA fans and executives as a whole in general than just resting players too?
I mean, that could happen any game, though. Like, just because they take a rest day doesn't mean they decrease their injury, like, chances of injury happening like that.
Yes, it does.
I mean, it does a little bit, but
if you know you're sore.
You can tear your ACL any game. Like, it can happen.
But there's way less chance. If you know you're sore, you know that you kind of tweaked it towards in the fourth quarter, the next day, it may not be an official injury, but you know, like, my hamstring is sore, coach, let me rest out. But I got a question for y'all. I totally understand the fan experience because a lot of people don't have a lot of money to make it out to the NBA games. But do you think fans would rather miss them here to then go to a parade, the championship parade, or watch their players really get a championship? Like, I understand both sides, but I just want to know how y'all feel.
If the ultimate goal is to win a championship, if you're a fan and you're watching your team, you're a Knicks fan. Tell me at the beginning of the season you didn't have hopes to win a championship.
I didn't have hopes to win a championship.
Take out the Warriors. Take out the Warriors. Tell me when you look at your team every year, unless you're a Nets fan, and you look at your team, you're telling me I was a Heat fan this year. Yeah, I wanted a high draft pick, but at the end, if I'm listing my priorities of what I want to see the most, championship is always going to go at the top. So yeah, if you have to, it sucks when you pay $500 or something to go and get great seats and you miss your favorite player play. Yeah, that sucks. But at the end of the day, the most important thing in the NBA is to win a championship. And as a fan, I feel like they should maybe start to understand.
Well, I want to revisit a point that both of you guys made real quick, Derek. The point that you made about LeBron and Kevin Love resting. If you're going to go it that way, look where it got them. They're second seed in the East now. They fell down a little bit.
But does it matter?
Yeah, it does matter because now instead of playing whoever's the 8th seed, the Heat, you're going to play the Pacers or someone that earn more wins. But another point, to revisit Zaya's point, if you're going to spend $500, you'd like to see those players. What if it's a visiting team? What if I'm a Knicks fan and I always see LeBron play and he doesn't show up? That's more of the issue that I'm talking about is visiting teams. If you're going to go visit, if you're going to be a team like the Phoenix Suns, who they have Devin Booker, but they don't have a true star, you want to go see LeBron play when they've come to town.
Up next, we have our weekly Ride the Pond and Diamond Through the Rough segment. Stay tuned. You're watching the Fast Break.